Mark, we've lost somebody today.
Yes.
Deigan unfortunately had a funeral to attend, a wake to attend, so he won't be today. So you got Mr. Mark Ridley and myself for Wins and Lessons Friday. Let's talk about what worked, what flopped, and most importantly, what did we learn?
Welcome to the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
Here we go, brother. I'm trying to keep my voice lower because what I've found over the last probably 5 days is after the show, my voice is so shot, brother. It's crazy how. So after the last couple of days after the show, I pick up the phone. I'm like, "Hello." So I was like, "Is this Dan?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's Dan." He's like, "Are you sleeping?" I'm like, "No, dude, I'm not sleeping. My
Just
voice
finished.
is shot. I
Just finished 5
that.
cigars.
Yeah, it's like that, right? Oh, Lisa, here we go. Lisa's back on top this morning. Then we got Mr. Jeff. Hey, Mark, my brother, happy Friday. What about me?
Hey, Jeff.
What about, hey, Dan? What about, hey, Dan, my brother, happy Friday?
He sees far too much of you as it is.
Yeah.
He just wants a little bit of me today.
Mark comes in once a week, and he already trumps Deigan. I tell you, I gotta tell you. But so, brother, let's start. Let's dive right in because you know what? I love Fridays. I love Mondays. I love every day in between. So share with me, what are some of the wins and what did you learn this week, and what did you apply?
So last week when we got together, I didn't reference this. I think there were 4 of us on. So we were all crowding each other.
Yeah, there's a lot of us on Friday.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun. But so one of the lessons that I was going to throw out last week, or one of the observations, was I was kind of fresh off the back of a nice long golf weekend in Florida. That's
unusual for you, where you travel hours to go golfing and stuff.
I'm
finding that very unusual. I mean, you can just go to Portugal just to golf and come home. Must be, the FX trading must be a good gig this time of year.
Lucky,
I don't know what's going on.
It's online, man. Like, people don't need me. Like, I just annoy clients and prospects. Like, hey, can I help today? You're like, no, we've done the trades. It's okay. You're redundant. So, but off the back of the weekend, and I was with a couple of buddies of mine that make the effort to come over from the UK. One of them's an Australian guy that I've known for 20 years, and he's based down in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it just kind of really like rammed home like that the true value of real relationships. Like, I think we move around in our circles, and we like who we like, and we don't like who we don't like, and we mix with, like, people that hopefully want to make us feel happy and lift us up. But then when you get back into those situations where you haven't seen somebody for 3 years, because we didn't we do this trip every year, but we didn't for the 2 COVID years.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen them for 3 years, and yet we pick up the conversation that we left off talking about when we walked off the golf course in Florida 3 years prior. And that, for me, was just a real, like, it was just a reminder that, you know what, I need to get together with these guys more. I need to make more of an effort, like more of I don't even want to call it a sacrifice.
But an investment. You're investing in your relationships, right? Like,
absolutely. Yeah. And it's not because I'm worried about them failing. It's about, like, what I get out of being around those individuals and how it makes me feel, and then how I feel when I'm then with my family and with my clients and with other people. It has that kind of, ripple effect. So I've made a more of a conscious effort to make sure that at least, once every couple of months or so, let's just, even if we just jump on a Zoom and have a Zoom beer or a Zoom coffee. For me, it'd probably be, for them, it'd be a Zoom beer, because it'd be 5 p.m. for them and lunchtime for me. With the time difference, but that for me was just such a great time. I can't even really remember the golf. The banter was just took me back, 20 years of relationship. So there was that, and then this week it's been a crazy week. Like, Wednesday, just all of a sudden, messages were coming out of nowhere for no reason. I don't think it was kind of preempting the ECB rate hike in Europe, but we got messages on when it was Wednesday night as well. Specifically, Wednesdays are like, that's my boys' night out with Baxter. I say boys' night out, right? It's just him and me. So we go to dinner. I then take him swimming afterwards, and we've been doing that for the best part of the last 7 years. And I'm sitting there watching.
Good for you, brother. That's awesome.
It's great. It's honestly, I love it. You know, it's just him and me, so we're just engaging. There's no iPads, there's no phones until we get to the swimming, and I'm kind of then looking at my phone a little bit, you know, down.
While he's swimming.
While he's swimming, yeah, and he's kind of like swimming past, like super fast, giving me the wave. Like, yeah, right, yeah. Oh my God.
Did you see that, Dad? Did you see it?
Did
you see it? Did you see it? Did you see it? Yeah, I did. That was awesome.
I do my level best to, like, you know, again, machines away. But all of us, it was ping, 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 and I'm looking at them, and it was just for different reasons, but all for. Hang on, let me change that. They're all coming in for different reasons, but then I was going to say, but for the same reason, and I think the same reason was because I'd stayed on top of these relationships, and so there was a pseudo dormant relationship that they were waiting for a specific deal to come to fruition, and all of a sudden it had done. There was what else was there? There was an existing client who I'd met with just for a review earlier on in the week, because more often than not, you solve for a particular problem, but we know there's another 1,000 that are out there. And so they're not focused on those problems because they're just building their widgets and doing their day to day. And so it's my job or our job to really go and say, oh, did you think about this? And don't forget about that. And then all of a sudden, like, off the back of that conversation on Wednesday evening, we're getting these pings like, oh, shit, we have a sister company that's also sending funds to internationally. Like, we just didn't even think about it, right? So let's get accounts opened up for those guys. And they were like 2 or 3 hours as well. So, but all of those conversations really had come off the back of, I think, our level of tenacity, but in the right, hopefully, in the right way. Like, we don't want to be in somebody's face all the time. We realize that they have a job to do, and you don't want to be that annoying used car salesman. And apologies if anybody out there is a used car salesman.
An annoying used car salesman.
yeah. So like it's or knowing a used car salesman. Yeah. So like but you don't want to then not approach them, because then you're either going to be forgotten, or they might think that, well, he's not that committed, or they're not that committed. So it's finding that right rhythm, I think, is the way that I would phrase it. And that's really starting to pay, or not starting to pay, that is paying dividends. And it has paid dividends, I think, throughout our entire business since we launched. Like, it's keeping those relationships warm. Even when you feel like it might be lost or there might be nothing there, there probably is something there, and you just have to, bide your time. And I saw this for a couple of decades when I worked in banks. Like, teams that I'd managed, was always encouraging them, look, if you go to see somebody on a Monday, just go back on a Tuesday, because the world's a different place. Now, I'm being a bit flippant there. I don't actually mean go back on a Tuesday, but a lot of our competitors would call on a client or a prospect once, they'd get kicked back. They would then just put that business card, tuck it away in the Rolodex, and it would never see the light of day again. And they just move on to the next one, not realizing that by staying on top of a client, they will have a need at some stage. They might go to an RFP, whatever it might be. But if you're not present, then they're not going to think of you. So it's really paid off this week. It's been a really good week. We've been super blessed by the payment flow this week.
Beautiful. There's one thing that when it came to follow up in my career, when I really started to see follow up as something different, is when I would ask. Like, okay, so when would you like to have the next conversation? And what I did is kind of put a plan into place where I would never hang up the phone or stop email communication until I secured the next date for a call.
Yeah.
And then depending on the length of that date, I would automatically put them into an email sequence where I would say, okay, I'm going to follow up between the follow-up on this date. So, Mark, I know you're, right now, obviously things are happening. You might not be looking for exchange, but when would be a good time to get back? You know what? Get back to me in a month. Okay, no problem. So what I would do is I would set a reminder in my schedule right away on the call. a reminder in my schedule saying, call back in a month, but in 2 weeks, send them this report or this report about what's going on based on the conversation.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because what started happening was customers that had initially said, I've got a 3-month kind of, back burner period. Every week I would kind of just send them an article or a post or a quote or something that was of value to them based on our conversations. I'm having trouble with this, and this, or I believe in relationships and relationships are the key. I'd find a really cool like Inc. article or Forbes article or CNBC article or industry specific article, doesn't necessarily need to be, about our conversation. And I would just send it off to them saying, hey, you know what? I read this today and I was thinking of you and I wanted to share it with you. Here you go. And it actually took those like 3-month timelines and cut them almost in half. It was really, really cool to see the results from just sharing pretty cool information. We did a survey, and this was pre-COVID. I think I'm going to do it again, but it was pre-COVID, and we went out to 150 different prospects and customers, and out of the 150, we got 148 replies, and which is like insane when it comes to like a questionnaire kind of thing. And one of the questions was, if your logistics provider gave you a weekly, bi-weekly kind of like report on industry news, what's happening that was really relevant to your business, would you watch it? And question number 2 is, do you think it would add credibility and help them stand out from the crowd? And everyone said, yes, 100%, I would read it. They're like, the junk, I don't like reading. But if it's something specific to what my needs are or what my desires are, I'd read it all day long. Like, there's emails that I get where I read the first sentence. And it's like, I'm not reading this. And then there's other emails where I'll spend 15 minutes reading the email because it's like a book. But it's like, what's really relevant to me today? So I don't know if that'll help you, but there's another strategy for you.
Yeah, no, I like that, and it kind of plays into a little bit to the like the currency alerts that we push out. So it's not so much that we're sending out a detailed information like you referenced there, but I like the idea of that, and I'm certainly going to give that some thought. But where we see currencies moving in a particular direction, or if we know that there's something that's in the pipe that's going to potentially move currencies, like maybe a rate rise or excuse me, some kind of negative data or positive data that might influence rates, we'll put alerts out as well. And we've been doing that for probably about a year, and that seems to go over well with clients.
And do you put alerts out to specific clients for those specific currencies, or just in general?
Just for the currency. Just so so anyone that's interested in the euro, they're on this particular list here. Few of those might also be interested in GBP as well, so they're on the GBP list. And it's just very short, very concise, and it's alert, just notifying them that the rate has moved or is going to move. Therefore, and if it's for some clients and some prospects, we know specifically like the timing of when they buy. And so we might jump in ahead of. So, for example, if they're looking to buy, what are we today? The 22nd. So maybe I'm being a bit flippant here, right? But maybe they buy on the last Friday of every month, or the second from last Friday of every month.
So they're going to buy in a week from now.
Exactly.
So they're going to start looking at it come Monday to see where they're at. Yep.
We will, but we also might jump in and say, look, don't do it. Like, delay, because we think that you're going to be better off waiting a week to 2 weeks. Or it might be like, hey, you usually buy on the 29th, like on that last Friday. Do it today. Today's the day. Like, don't wait. So that's the kind of, if we know it's going to be extreme for a particular client or a prospect, then that's when we'll pick up the phone, or we'll at least get.
I think you're adding huge value there, Mark. And here's the thing, right? Is I believe you're adding massive value even to prospects who might take that information and go to their present FX exchange company and say, hey, listen, I'm understanding this. Let's make a deal. But just that technical information, that value information to help them run a more effective and profitable business, I think is crucial. Because even today they might say, okay, thanks, Mark, for that. And they're going to turn around and go to their person but one day they're going to turn around and come to you. I freaking love that, man. That's awesome.
I mean, that's interesting you say that. Like, one certainly hopes that they do turn around and come to us, but we know, we know that they're going to their incumbent. They're going to their current provider, and we've said to them, even like during the prospecting phase, look, we're still going to reach out to you because it costs me nothing to do it. Like, you're part of an email chain. So emails are really going out to X number of individuals anyway. Like, adding you to it is like by not doing it, I'm an ass, quite frankly. So like, just because they might say no, even if they're like vehement, look, like, I'm really happy, or the pricing's really good with my current provider. I'll call bullshit on the pricing thing, but we hear that a lot. But like, even if the pricing was good, then we'd say, again, it doesn't matter. Like, we're not going to be petulant children and not speak to you again just because you choose to use somebody else. Like, we started our business because we felt like a small 2.5 person really company could drive down foreign exchange pricing in the market. So we're putting challenges out to the likes of Chase and Bank of America and Wells Fargo to say that it's not just us. There are many, many firms like us, and no longer can you beat up clients, and no longer can you get away with what you get away with. So, but that being said, we know why they do it. They've got shareholders. So
yes. Yeah, well, I mean, sorry, I'm just pulling up the lane of the day too, because I just realized the time. And if DJ was on, he would have already sent me a DM saying, Dan, lane of the day, we're halfway through the show.
Sorry, Dave.
So Jeff, it's all good, brother. Jeff says, come on, bro, how about making a conscious effort to give me a call? A few dates, mate, to hit the links. How about starting there, and most important with the most important relationships you have? Lisa says, persistence beats resistance. That's a good one. I like that. Can you start by introducing your skills and experience? So here's my answer to that. No. And here's the reason why. So again, kind of like what I said to Mark at the beginning, when you start making sales calls, for lack of a better word, nobody cares about you. It's everything has to be focused on what the result is for the prospect. However, there's a caveat to that. Is don't just come in and say results. You have to figure out what the customer needs. And in today's market, most customers are saying, ask me questions, engage me in a way that's going to make me want to answer. So what Mark and I are talking about is more of a follow-up where you've already been in contact. But I mean, I'll put it over to you, Mark, because I think it's a great question. Do people really care about your company or what you get for them?
I think honestly, I think it's a bit of a mix. I think where people care is that they don't know us. They've never heard of us. Where we're not a household name. So that's more of an intriguing, like, so who are you and where did you come from and what does your background actually look like? So in those scenarios,
so they're qualifying you to handle their money.
Yeah. So and simply put, the way that I describe ourselves, we're a new skin but hyper experienced bones. That's it. We've been doing this for a long time.
I like that.
So it's it's tried, proved, and tested. But yeah, I tend to find, despite how I act on these particular podcasts, on these particular shows, I like clients and prospects to do the talking. I want them to tell me, I've got an idea what their pain points are, but if you tell them what their pain points are, sometimes they don't necessarily want to admit to that. But if they proactively, you've got to almost like tease it out of them. Like, I want them to admit that they've got the problem, and then we can start providing some solutions to how we can overcome that. But I like to ask one or two questions and then just sit back and just let them go. And but there are times when it's a bit quiet and you could end up just staring at each other, and then I just try and fill that silence with junk,
humor or
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I realized pretty late in my career, because I really didn't take logistics as a career probably until about 15, almost 20 years in. But when I really started to change, my process went to, before I even try and figure out your problems, I'm going to qualify you because, like you, right? There's a lot of people that are really interested day of, and then it's like zero dark 30. They're off chasing Osama bin Laden for like 6 years or something, and you never get a hold of them, right? So for me, it was more on any sales call, any cold call, like pure cold call. My simple question was, what's your primary and secondary reason for adding or switching a service provider? And what I'm looking for is I'm looking to qualify them based on my customer profile. And that qualification is going to determine, and for everyone watching or listening afterwards, this isn't an ego thing at all, but they have to be a certain type of customer in order for me to even want to deal with them. And only because I value my time. I know that I'm worth something, and I don't want to play in the field of chasing freight rates. I didn't what we call in our industry as freight chasers, where it's like, okay, I'll do it for $25 less. Okay, give you the load. Okay, I'll do it for $50. And you're just constantly on that hunt, and you're in essence what we call dialing for dollars, right?
Yeah.
I have zero desire to play in that. So when I would ask my question, I would ask it very specifically. Like, a lot of people call up and say, how are you set up? I'd love an opportunity to quote you and all this other crap. But when I would start with, what's your primary and secondary reason for adding or switching a service provider? Like, why would you even consider making a change? And it's an even bigger question today, because the people that are in, it's like, it's all about relationships. It's all about this. It's all about that. And customers, we've had tons of customers on this show that have said, like, I can't be wrong. Like just because you have capacity doesn't mean you're going to get business anymore, because everyone has capacity until the 11th hour when my rate's no longer good and capacity is no longer there. But it's like, so for me, it's, why would this prospect even add somebody to the mix, right? So if they come back, price and service, hypothetically, I go, what do you mean by price? And if they say, well, I need a minimum 15% cheaper than who has it today, then in order to switch, I probably won't play that game, Mark. I don't really care if it's General Electric. I don't care if it's Ford. No interest. Because the next call he gets, if somebody can drop it 15%, I lose the business regardless of what value I bring to the table. And that's the big piece of the puzzle. We had a conversation where and Jeff actually went through this awesome exercise afterwards. I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and it was or maybe it was last week. Gosh, the days are colliding into each other, where we talked about value and what is value. Like, what is real value? Not just the hype word and the, oh my God, I got value, or any of that shit. Like, what is the value that you bring to the table? What are you worth? And what do you do the best? And for me, it always came down to, how do I design my life? And that's where I would start, because if you're not part of that design, I'd rather not waste your time or my time. Because the only thing that's going to happen, I don't know if this is the same way in the foreign exchange world, but in the logistics world, like, a customer, say, for example, is on price, and you don't really dig in deep to find out the reason they buy. Like, what is the main why, the nucleus of why they buy? And you just start doing business. And then 3-4 months down the road, you've used so much time, effort, and energy, your sales have probably slowed down and all this, the customer just disappears. And you're like, what the hell happened? Well, somebody came in $100 cheaper. It's like, okay, but I've been servicing you. Yeah, but price is price. Like, I focus on price. It's like, well, how did I not even know? And I've been through hundreds of these customers where you spend so much time and energy on them, and you figure, because consciously we go into these accounts and we want to serve. We're on time every time. We're giving them the best deals. We're giving them the best updates we can. We're doing everything in our power to give them the best value for the buck. And in the end, $50 matters. And I ask you, Is that a customer you want where they're gonna wheel and deal? Well, I got this for $50 less over here. And it's like, dude, it's a multi-million dollar account. You know how many customers I've had that have said, this is a $10 million account and the truck's late and I'm going, $10 million account. You weaned me down an extra $50 to make it happen. I had to change carriers because the person wouldn't go down and you wanted it moved. And don't get me wrong, my bad for taking the load, right? But the mentality at that point is you did this and you did this. And then I stopped one day and I said, whoa, Mark, if you go to the store and you say you want A, B, C, and D, you want these 4 things out of a product. And this person says, that product right there, and I could do it for $50. So, okay, take the product. You get it home, it does A and B. You call the guy back and you say, hey, you said it did A, B, C, and D, and it only does A and B. And the guy's like, yeah, A, B, C, and D would have been like another $100.
Yeah.
Right? Like you gave a quote to deliver on A, B, C, and D. And that's when I realized, yes, I would give a quote delivering on the 4 characteristics that they wanted, and I knew I could only deliver 2. But I did it because I wanted the freight, not because I wanted to be a resource. I wanted to put money on the board. I wanted to put numbers on the board. I wanted to put commission in my pocket. And that's the big difference. That's when everything in business changes. When it's like, it's the high performers out here will talk here because it's not about, and I know people are going to say, Dan, are you flipping crazy? But it's not about the profit. It's not. Like, I would much rather have 15 customers giving me $1,000 a week profit, right? Than 5 customers giving me $4,000 a week. And some people say, well, that's crazy, Dan, you're crazy. No, because the 15 customers are going to be my exact client profile.
Yeah.
I would much rather have, reverse the strategy. I'd much rather have 3 customers that are my ideal client than 10 customers that aren't. Even if I make triple the money with the 10 customers, because eventually, and I've been there, my friends, I've done it. I hated this industry with a passion. Like, I left the industry, the only thing I've ever known from the time I was 17, and I left it because I said, this is bullshit. Everybody's cutthroat. Nobody looks after the next guy. Nobody, like Dean talks about, nobody leaves anything on the table for the next guy. And this is the next level that we got to go into. And this is the next level where you're really going to design a career for yourself. And it makes sense, right? Like, it makes total sense, the philosophy behind it,
Yeah.
Jeff says he has to go. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bring on Monday. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So Adela, I hope that answered your question. Do you want to add anything to that, Mark?
No, I think you covered that off, actually, mate. I buy into everything you said there. Actually, the only, I guess, one thing to add is it's probably along the same lines. We're not willing to race to zero. If somebody can get it a cheaper price, it's out there, but are you getting everything else that goes with that? And if you are, that's awesome. And we're not saying we're the best at everything, because we can't benchmark ourselves against the other 150,000 FX brokers on the planet, but we know what we can do, and we know what the client is currently and the prospect is currently doing, and what the incumbent is doing for them. And we want to give them not just a slightly better experience, a way better experience, manage that risk, and also drive down the price so that we can add something to the bottom line. So I've been very fortunate in this particular business that we started, that once or twice somebody's said to me, like, I can get it cheaper elsewhere. Like, I'm sure you can, mate. And if you can, then have at it. Go for it. And they stayed with us because they couldn't get it cheaper elsewhere, or maybe they could, and they just weren't going to get the same level of service. So, yeah, it's we know what value we add. There's a type of client that we are interested in, like yourself, and we can't help everybody as much as we'd like to. We can't, and you can only help those that want to be helped.
Exactly. Speaking of helping people, but not really helping everyone, let's talk about the lane of the day. All right, my friend. So we are talking about Los Angeles to Phoenix, Arizona today. We're going to talk about both dry van and reefer in today's recap. So for dry van, Los Angeles to Phoenix, $3.39 per mile, all in fuel surcharge, $4.09. Here's the kicker, Mark. Contracted rates for this lane are $5.37. That is probably the highest over spot market than we've seen. We're talking like $2 almost over spot market. And yet the year-to-year spot market line haul rates are down 81 cents a mile. And that is import volumes for in Los Angeles were flat last month compared to May, which is translated into flat rate spot rates on major warehouse market lanes to Phoenix, for example. Capacity is also much looser than this time last year. The second lane we're going to talk about from Los Angeles to Phoenix, and here's the craziness of it, is a reefer. The reefer line haul rate per mile is $2.19. A week over week, it's actually down 5 cents a mile. Year over year, it's down 57 cents for an all-in rate of $2.91. And reefer spot rates continue to cool and drop off 31% year to date. So very, very unusual where a market that actually has dry van rates higher than reefer rates. Now, before we head out for today, we've got a very special thing starting now, which is Mr. Ridley. You're going to share a little bit about kind of currency exchange this week and what's happened, and get, hopefully, if some of you are doing currency exchange, get a hold of Mark. He'll be your man. Go for it, Mark.
Well, I appreciate that, mate. So I'd say first and foremost, so why do currency exchanges matter? Well, it not only impacts the economy, it's actually going to impact, I guess, everybody that's listening in, or most people listening in, are involved in the logistics world. So they're moving product from A to B. Now, if that's a purely domestic play, then it may not necessarily be of a massive amount of interest. But if anybody's picking up on behalf of clients that are importing or exporting, then currencies affect them and their buying behaviors as well. So keeping an eye on like the strength of the US dollar right now is pretty key. So that's helping importers and really hurting exporters. We haven't been in this region where are we at the moment? 101.88 roughly. That's $1.01 to a euro. That's the strongest it's been for 20 years. Well, last week, the week before, we did go below parity, but this is the strongest we've been for about 20 odd years. So great for importers. Last week we saw the PPI data and other inflationary data come out as well. That's all going to push the FOMC, the Fed, basically to increase rates next week. We knew that was going to happen anyway. We about 6 months ago, we would have said it was 50 basis points. It's at least 75, and there are some Fed governors that are calling for a whole percentage point to be increased next week. So the markets have priced in 75 basis points. What that means is what you're seeing the trading rates at right now shouldn't really make too much of a difference once the announcement comes out next week, unless it's above or below the 75 basis point mark. So keep an eye out for that. Europe increased their base rates this week by 50 basis points. The market was kind of expecting 25, so that strengthened the euro a little bit, weakened the US dollar for about an hour, and then the market settled again, and there were buyers of dollar off the back of that, which then brought the dollar back to the strength that we have right here, right now. And then I'd like to just quickly touch on your home market, Canada, as well. So Canada usually like the Canadian price, FX price, usually follows oil prices. So we've seen a dip in the price of oil. We're about $99, just under at this point in time, and that's resulted in a slightly stronger Canadian dollar as well. We're trading there at 128.64, and then I might just tap out with Mexico, which is a currency which holds pretty well against the US dollar. Interest rates in Mexico are pretty high, therefore there's still investment in Mexico. They're also an oil producing nation as well, which helps support their currency, but we're seeing it about 20.57 for the Mexican peso at the moment. So anyone out there that is dealing with clients who are importing, now is a good time to be talking to them about hedging their exchange rates out for the next 12 months, because when data is announced that we are in a recession, which is 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, then, so I'm just looking at the rates right now, bouncing around, then it's likely that we'll start to see interest rates decrease in 2023. And that's going to create a weaker US dollar. So buying your foreign exchange needs today for delivery at any point in time throughout 2023, for example, you're going to get yourself a bargain from an import perspective. So anybody dealing with importers and wants to impress them, talk to them about how they can save a shit ton of money next year.
That is awesome, Mark. Thank you. And we're going to be bringing you that. Mark's going to be, not me. I have nothing. I didn't understand half that. Mark's going to be bringing you everything you need to know. And you know what? Next week, Mark, we'll add in if you're doing here to here, buy or sell, buy or wait. Let's do that too.
All right.
That'll be fun.
We'll throw that in. We'll put our hat on it. We've been pretty accurate so far, so let's put our hat on it.
Let's do it. I'm interested. I'm liking it. Have a great weekend, everybody. We got an exciting weekend coming up over here with a couple of really, really groundbreaking things that are happening. We're getting logins for our new system and everything, so we're super excited over here, and we can't wait to share with you guys probably in the next coming weeks what this means to you and what it means to the future of logistics sales. So have a great weekend, y'all. Mark, thanks for joining me, brother. And
thank you.
We're wishing DJ well. Take care.
Yes.
Centurion Trucking, our motto is people before profit. Today's market requires more transparency, consistency, and focus on what our clients need to win. Centurion Trucking and American Logistics are poised to help their clients achieve and surpass their targets. If you're looking for a team that honors your needs, dreams, and aspirations, then get a hold of Daman at American Logistics or Centurion Trucking and